playing a true road game. If you can't tell, the background is back. Old Memorial Stadium turf. Let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. I'm trying to speak through the mic and be as quiet as possible, but I got too much to say. I can't just tweet something out. I didn't want to make like a 15-minute video, and so yeah, I want to wrap up the bucket game and kind of talk about some other stuff that's going to happen this week. Audio's working out. Shout out to Dabney Offerman in the chat with a couple of questions. Great win Friday night under the lights. Bit of a struggle for Mendoza. Does he still have a shot at the Heisman, or did Purdue quash that? I'm glad you asked. We're going to get into it. But yeah, it was the old Oakham bucket game on Friday night. It was an absolute splattering. No surprises here. If Indiana didn't do exactly what it did to Purdue on Friday night, I think a lot of us would be sitting here having a lot of questions, to say the least. But yeah, I had some keys to success going into this one. Number one was to secure Heisman Mendoza into the first question. Here's the way I look at it. If Mendoza was your Heisman going into Friday night, he's your Heisman coming out of Friday night. I don't think he did anything in Friday night's game to diminish his chances at winning the Heisman. Now, if Purdue catches a couple of those early passes in the first quarter and he has 2-3 interceptions on his stat line instead of the clean stat line he ended up with, maybe we're having a different conversation. But like when we're talking about the Heisman, especially in the eyes of the public, like the way the odds moved last week was insane. Like Julian Sain has been number 2 for pretty much the entire season. He struggled a little bit in a game against Rutgers where he didn't have his 2 best receivers. Jeremiah Love went crazy, and he went from plus 4,000 to plus 3,700, whatever he ended up being, right? And then you go fast forward to this week. Sain has his big game against Michigan. Love struggles a little bit. They get some other guys involved in their game. Notre Dame's game against Stanford. Sain ended up back in the number 2 spot today. And Mendoza did drop a little bit. He was minus 150, I think, at one point in the last couple of weeks. He was plus 105, but the rest of the country kind of still has no idea who number 2 is. The only real clear thing is Fernando Mendoza's number 1. And like, yeah, if you want to say like Omar Cooper Jr. made an awesome play and scored a touchdown to put a touchdown on Fernando's record book, like, yeah, he did. Was it a screen to Elijah Surratt for the second touchdown in that game? Yeah, it was. But like, listen, got to get the ball to those guys. And the thing about the Heisman Trophy is it's a season-long award. If it was based off of one game or one performance, like you could start looking around the country and who had the best single game performance, right? But it's about the totality of the season. And I don't think Fernando Mendoza did anything on Friday night to diminish what he's done over the entire season, which is what I think 38 total touchdowns. He added one on the ground as well. He's led 3 game-winning drives on the road in the Big Ten in hostile environments. Like he checks a lot of boxes for this award, right? And he has the statistics to back it up. And there's been a lot of like back and forth of, he's not a 4,000-yard passer, blah blah blah, and there's been some points made about the rule changes and things like that. But you look at the totality of the season, like, yeah, Fernando Mendoza is the Heisman. I don't think anything he did on Friday night changes that. Key number 2 for this Purdue game was to show the bye week positively impacted the health. Obviously, we saw it immediately. Elijah Surratt started. Drew Evans was active. He didn't play a snap in this game. Actually, I have the snap counts here. Shout out to the Daily Hoosier. Evans was active, didn't play a snap. Benson was also active, but was with the second unit, I believe. He played second unit snaps. Mikowski was the starting tackle. Ajani was the starting guard. But yeah, they looked healthy. The defense looked reinvigorated. They got after Purdue. We're going to do a little box score watching real quick. Like, 10 TFLs, only with the 1 sack. I thought Ryan Brown was unbelievably slippery. And it's weird to say when you get stomped the way Purdue did that their quarterback kind of played well, but I don't know. I was kind of impressed by Ryan Brown given what he was working with. But yeah, they definitely got healthy, and the fact that they played this game on Friday night, and I made the point on Tuesday. They didn't get 8 days to prepare for an Ohio State team. And yeah, that's great in the film room, but it's also great physically. Like at this point in the season, when you're in November in the Big Ten, everybody's beat up. Everybody has injuries. When you have even an extra day to rest, like that can be the difference between somebody feeling, between 85 and 90% and 90 and 95%. You know, I'm like throwing random numbers around, right? But you get it. You watch the sport long enough, you know, like these days matter when it comes to the end of the season. And I think that's something that's going to play a factor into this game. Key number 3 was establish the run. Holy hell, Indiana ran the hell out of the football. I think they ran for like 250 yards in the first quarter or first half. Roman Hemby had his career-long 82-yard touchdown, which is unbelievable. Alberto Mendoza was getting in on the action. He ran for a big 58-yarder. But 37 carries, 355 yards, 9.6 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns on the ground for Indiana. Obviously, the weather played a factor in Mendoza's day, not being, you know, as high powered or as high, you know, he didn't have the gaudy numbers that you'd want him to have, right? But a lot of that was also Purdue was just dropping back and content with letting Indiana run the football. And if you watched the way Indiana played in the beginning of the season when teams were doing that to them, and that was a pretty much what their non-con schedule was like, cool, run the football. Indiana was more than happy to run the football. And when you're going to run for 350 yards and everybody's going to get involved and all 3 running backs are going to score, and the spin move by Kalon Black, like he had an incredible game. Little disappointed we didn't get a running back lining up in the slot. We literally got fucking Carter Smith, left tackle, lining up in the slot, which was absurd. I loved that play design, but if you've played any, and I mean, the guys must have been playing college football 26 because that's in the Coach Dan Casey playbook. If anybody's that deep into it, but yeah, I thought the boys ran the hell out of the football. Pretty obvious from the jump. That's why you go get a guy like Roman Hemby. Like we saw it when Indiana played Maryland last year. Obviously, Pons got blocked by the ref, and we got a flashback of that during the Penn State game. But Roman Hemby is a hell of a football player. And is he going to be the guy? Is he going to run 4.3? No. Like, is he a blazer who's going to hit home runs all the time? No. But is he going to be like just like he's exactly what you need. Roman Hemby is exactly what you need. I don't know any other way to put it. The guy's just reliable. He keeps his feet moving. He always falls forward. Like he's just a pleasure to watch run the football. And so to see him break away from the Purdue defense was just like, yeah, that was an incredible moment. But yeah, Indiana's a team that is definitely not afraid to run the football. They relish those moments. Key number 4, dominate the defensive line of scrimmage. They lived in the backfield. I don't have the pressure numbers, but I would imagine they were pretty high. Obviously, it was the 1 sack, but 10 TFLs. Like this defensive line creates havoc. It's what we've watched all year. They're going to stunt. They're going to hit people. They're going to be physical, and they're just going to want it more than you. And when you're playing a team like Purdue and you can take them out of the game like that, like, yeah, this defensive line is going to eat. Like we've seen what happens when they come up against these units like these Iowas, these Penn States, these Oregons, right? Where it's like it's not as destructive as when they play Penn State, but they're still creating, or as when they play, you know, a Purdue, but they're still creating havoc. Like they're still destructive. Like they are one of the best units in the country. And so like, yeah, this wasn't a surprise that they were just all over the place in this one. And then key number 5 was regardless of the atmosphere, and I'll take a second to talk about the atmosphere in a second, but remember that Purdue is not on your level and just play Indiana football. Like that was pretty obvious from the start. They could have just lined up and pretty much ran 4 verticals and probably won 30-0. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have to put a ton of nuance into going out there and beating Purdue, right? But it was impressive execution nonetheless, and the environment. It was fucking cold. Like I was texting some people who were at the game, right? And they were saying like, the wind's not blowing, whatever, yada yada. Like, pretty sure it's like 22 degrees Fahrenheit, like on the thermometer. So like let's not pretend like it wasn't cold in that stadium. And there was a lot of red for a blackout. It was announced as a blackout by Purdue, and like I don't know if any highlight, any like Dabney's in the chat saying 24 degrees at kickoff temp, and I'm sure it got colder from there, but you couldn't tell. You definitely couldn't tell from the way the crowd was reacting. And it was if it was at best 50-50, 60-40 Hoosiers, like it was a really impressive takeover of that stadium. And I think Hoosier speaker was the one who made this point that like you just hear from Purdue fans that like no matter what, like they show up for their football team, right? And to see this happen and Indiana essentially take over their stadium was hilarious in its own right. I did have some takeaways other than just like the keys to success. And I did want to get into the snap counts, but I'll get into that in a second. It was pure and utter destruction. Like you always have those thoughts, right? It's rivalry weekend. We saw what happened to Texas A&M, and like it's not going to affect Texas A&M's playoff implications, but what does this do for Texas? Like, who knows? I'm not here to make that argument, right? But like anything can happen on rivalry weekend. Georgia Tech, like Georgia only scores 16 points, right? Like Oklahoma, LSU, complete joke. They're in a dogfight, right? Like the Iron Bowl was a terrible football game for large parts of it, but that was a game, right? Oregon and Washington were in a dogfight. For large parts of Michigan and Ohio State, and for large parts of the first quarter, that was a football game where Michigan was playing really well. And, you're not going to kick field goals and beat Ohio State, right? But you're leading 6-0 in that football game, right? There was none of that in this game. Like it was over from the jump. First play of the game or second play of the game, Amari Farrell picks off Ryan Brown. Indiana didn't score on that possession. It was pretty much that was it for Purdue moving the football. There was that's like Kurt Cignetti's played Purdue twice. He scored 66 points in year one. He scored 56 points in year two. They've allowed a total of 3 points. Like, how much more could you ask for from these guys when you're playing your rival? Like that is the type of destruction everybody wants. And like, yeah, there's been some like a lot of people who obviously Indiana's new to this national scene for a football sense. So a lot of the football fans look at this logically and go, okay, why doesn't Indiana play Notre Dame? It's like you can't just like look at the way Indiana has exploded onto the scene and expect them to have a Notre Dame rivalry lined up. Like before November 30th, 2023, like the idea of Indiana and Notre Dame playing a football game every year was laughable. Essentially, it would have been what this Indiana Purdue game was, right? And so there's no incentive for Notre Dame to play it. There was no reason for Indiana to play it. There is Indiana Notre Dame game scheduled for 2030. It's on the schedule. But then you look at why the Indiana Purdue rivalry works, and like the Oaken Bucket is awesome in 1925 and all the history and all that. But it's a basketball rivalry, and Indiana basketball hasn't held up its end of the bargain in terms of its national presence in the last couple of years. But like Mike Woodson was 500 against Purdue. You know what I mean? So like it's a rivalry that makes sense on the basketball court. Purdue for a long period of time was the football school of the state, obviously not including Notre Dame. You look at some of the players that have come out of Purdue, like Drew Brees played for Purdue. That's all I'll give them credit for, right? But there's, they were producing NFL talent. So the rivalry makes sense. It's obviously a very down period for Purdue, and I'm not going to apologize for them. I'm not going to make excuses for them. I'm going to enjoy it. But I'm also not going to sit here and tell you if they just decide to spend a bunch of money that they get from, how good their basketball program has been and put it into the football program. Like, there's no reason to say why they can't be good. Is Odom the guy? I don't know. That's not a question I'm going to answer here either. But the rivalry makes sense. I'll say that. Takeaway number 2, Heisman Doza is fine. It's a year-long award. Vote for Heisman Doza if you haven't today. I voted twice. Pat myself on the back. Rest equals good. You could use more of it. It's funny. Both coaches, they had, and I didn't listen to all of it. I saw a lot of the quotes coming out. I'll do my big prep for the Ohio State Indiana Big Ten championship game for our show on Tuesday. And actually, funny. I'll read Brad's statement in a second because obviously I'm solo tonight. No Brad. But what was I gonna say? Both coaches were asked whether or not they thought, the teams deserved, like both teams playing for the Big Ten championship deserved a bye. And I thought both coaches had correct answers and they had different answers, right? I thought Sig's answer was, talking to his team is like, no, like regardless of whether or not we're in this game, like we have to earn everything and you got to earn on the field and all that stuff, right? And if you have the like quote unquote like the underdog, right, and you're like this game has to matter for you in a deeper sense, right? You can't just be like, yeah, regardless of what happens, like our future is going to be okay, right? It's like, okay, cool, let's put all this focus on one game. If you're coming at it from the other side, right, where you're Ryan Day, you're Ohio State, and this is like, I know they're chasing a Big Ten championship, right? Like Michigan's had a lot of recent success, but like it's not exactly foreign to say Ohio State's playing for a Big Ten championship, right? Like something they've done over and over again in recent history. I watched Ohio State play for a Big Ten championship in Lucas Oil Stadium and put BTA to Wisconsin. So like that was in the last, 8 years? Not even. But if you get a bye week, they're not playing another football game for a month. Like we're talking about how good like a late bye week was for Indiana to have some rest going into this backstretch of the season. Like, what does a month off do for your football team? Like, that is like pure rejuvenation. That might as well be the fountain of youth. And I'm not saying like you can get guys back that are out for the season, right? Like that could be wishful thinking depending on what those injuries are. But anybody who's like banged up, anybody who's got like any bit of tightness, like that's a significant amount of time you can take off to get healthy, to get back towards wherever you need to get back towards. Whereas like this is going to be a really physical football game between Indiana and Ohio State, and that Alabama-Georgia SEC championship game is going to be really physical. And I didn't watch much of the ACC this year, but my guess is that game's probably going to be pretty physical too. When you're playing in these championship games, and then you have to roll over and play in a week one or round one playoff, like that becomes a tough ask to win in round one, to win in round two, to be in the semi or whatever the breakdown is, right? I'm going off the top of my head, but like at a certain point when you're playing 14, 15, 16 football games, like that physicality catches up. Like you need to have elite depth. And if you don't have elite depth, you're going to be punished. And so 34-21 Ohio State over Wisconsin in 2019. What was 2018 though? I feel like there was like 48-0 or something like that. Like I swear I watched it, like absolute destruction. But yeah, it's the math becomes a lot different. Just the miles you put on your football team becomes a lot different when you add another football game on there, especially against a team that wants it. And with the way they schedule, or with the way they seeded this year, without giving the automatic buys to the conference champions, like you'd like to think that the seeding is going to be a little bit more accurate this year. So hopefully those round one games are a little bit better. But again, like you want to be playing less football at this time, like, as funny as that sounds, right? You want to be playing more football, but less football because you want to be able to stay healthy. So, yeah, the rest is good. The rest is very, very good. Takeaway number 4: Indiana trusts their freshmen a lot, and regardless of if you've seen them this season or if they've made an impact yet, I believe they are going to make an impact in the future, in the short-term future. I think we'll see some of these guys play. I don't know if it's going to be a Big Ten championship game, and I'm not saying it's going to be big moments, but they got some freshmen. Like a lot of people made the comment Byron Baldwin Jr. burned his red shirt over the weekend. Like I almost tweeted this. I kind of kept it back pocket, but the way I looked at the Byron Baldwin Jr. situation is like that kid's super talented, right? Like he's in best case scenario not a 4-year player anyway. So like, yeah, would it be cool to hypothetically have another year on the books for a kid like that? Yeah. But at the end of the day, when you have somebody who's that talented and you have somebody who can make a positive impact on your football team, I'm completely fine with not having like, a 5th year or, whatever that means, right? Because that tells me that the coaching staff is deemed that less important than the now. And they tells me that he can make an impact now. Another freshman we saw make an impact was Davion Chandler. Shout out to Lawrence North. The Lawrence North wide receivers for Indiana went crazy. That was his first career catch, first career touchdown. Really cool to see him get mobbed after that too. You could tell the guys like him, which was pretty cool. And then Garrett Reese led Indiana out of the tunnel against Purdue, which I thought was really interesting. But I want to get into a couple of these snap counts because I thought it was interesting. Again, Ajani started at guard. He played the most snaps on offense. But we saw LeBron Bond, freshman. He played 13 snaps. Davion Chandler, like I just mentioned, freshman. Alberto Mendoza was in the game. A lot of people still don't understand there are 2 Mendozas. When we say the Mendozas are a dual threat, it means there are 2 of them, and they are both a threat to your football team. Then we got a bunch of the freshmen across the offensive line too, and that was one of the things Brad was texting me about. Just random out of the blue text, 10:30 from Brad. Live Freed playing center, Wilkin left guard, Marek right guard, Davion Chandler, bang, Lawrence left tackle, which is really cool stuff. And like, yeah, those guys got in. Like Liebfried, sophomore, 11 snaps. Evan Lawrence, 11 snaps. Beller Wilkin, 9 snaps. Freshman, Marek, freshman, 9 snaps, right? That's invaluable experience for these guys. And like people want to like again, I'm calling it the Bloomington bump because people are going to look at the guys, Indiana recruits, and realize that you need to take another look at them because you're probably not evaluating them correctly. But like a lot of these guys are going to make an impact in the next couple of years. Like they're really, really talented football players, and like getting on the field in a blowout and just getting your feet wet and not having your first game experience be just like thrusted into some random situation is a big deal. So yeah, the huge takeaway was seeing a lot of the freshmen play. And then number 5 is IU has NFL skill. Obviously, you watch Elijah Surratt, guy's always open. Doesn't have the nickname Waffle House for no reason, but he scored, right? Omar Cooper Jr., you saw the play he made. Like these guys are playmakers. Jonathan Brady is electric in punt return, right? Like Miles Price is returning punts in the NFL right now. Key Williams is returning punts in the NFL right now. Like both of their receivers playing on the outside or Coop and Surratt are better players than those guys. Like they're going to be NFL guys. They are NFL skill. And like, are they both first round, like bona fide top 15 picks? No, but do you need to be that to have success in college? Like, no, you don't. Like, you just need to be good enough. And those guys are more than clearly good enough. Like, it's funny when you can look at like opposing fan bases try and like make a point about Indiana or make a point about Mendoza's day and be like, he can't be the Heisman because look at all the talent he has around him, right? And like in some sense of the way, like they're not wrong for saying he's got a ton of talent around him, but somebody's got to get the football to those guys, which is why like I never disqualified Julian Sayin from a Heisman conversation because I always thought it was stupid that like who gives a shit whether or not the guy's team is good? Like you have to be good individually. It's an individual award, right? And so yeah, I think it's a good thing that Indiana has a lot of NFL skill, right? And I'll call Carter Smith skill too. Like that guy's one of the best left tackles in football. And you know, they have a big challenge coming up next weekend. But in terms of like what they've been able to put on the field this entire season, like yeah, there's a lot of NFL guys on this team. And that was part of why I went on the college football show with Mark Rogers earlier last week or on Wednesday night, I think it was. I can't even remember. It's been traveling. But yeah, it was Wednesday night. It was to talk about the amount of NFL talent that's on this Indiana football team. Like it does bother me that people look at this team and they look at the 24/7 numbers and they're just like, yeah, it's like, and I know Fernando had the comment like from the Coogan locker room speech. I was like, we're the land of misfit toys or something like that. And like, in a sense, he's right, but like, I don't know, the quarterback slated to go top 5 in the draft, right? Like the left tackle should be drafted in the first couple rounds. Like Elijah Surratt's going to be a top 3 round pick. Like Omar Cooper is being mocked in the 4th or 5th round. Like we can keep going. Like D'Angelo Pons is the best corner in college football. Aiden Fisher, Butkus finalist, like 3 returning All-Americans on the defense. Stephen Daly leads the conference in tackles for loss, and the guy played half the season. Like just because they weren't like people didn't see this coming since these kids were in middle school does not mean that they don't have the talent necessary to compete at the next level. And that it would be a mistake to go into the playoff season thinking that Indiana doesn't have the guns. Like last year, you watched that Indiana football team. You even watched the way they beat Michigan. Second half of that football game got really dicey. It wasn't the obliterations we've been seeing this year. It wasn't that like you watched the way the team went to Oregon this year and the way they competed across both lines, and it looks different. And so I think that's an important thing to keep in mind is like this. Indiana has upgraded in areas, and so like it doesn't. The depth isn't at the point where you can look at an Ohio State and be like up and down the roster from 1 to however many guys you're going to keep, right? 85, 120, whatever. Like every single guy would be rated on this and whatever. But the guys who are playing, yeah, like there's a reason why they're the number 2 team in the country. So I'll get to the official statement from Brad. So Brad said, this is why Brad is not on the show tonight. He said, quote, Purdue stinks, and I'm already on to Ohio. The game went exactly as expected. Purdue defense showed life for a brief moment, then faded away into the abyss. Our main focus is Ohio State as Indiana partakes in its first ever 1v2 matchup. Game of the century preview on Tuesday. By the way, the Davion Chandler touchdown was sick and shows our depth. So there you have it. The master of the eye test with his eye test. And then I want to talk about the kind of, I don't want to say this storyline's been going around. I saw it in one spot. I can see it kind of getting legs. It had a decent amount of likes on the tweet I saw, but there seems to be this notion that the Big Ten championship game doesn't matter. And yes, I'm going to acknowledge the obvious caveat that bearing something unforeseen, right? A blowout in either direction where like one team literally forgets how to play football, right? Both of these teams are going to have buys. So I'm going to acknowledge the fact that, like, in terms of the grand scheme of trying to win a national championship, this game doesn't mean much. Okay, that out of the way. Like, can we stop with that bullshit? Like, that is the most ridiculous take of all time. Like, I'll say this. My first football game as a student was watching Ohio State run all over Indiana. Like, Ohio State's beaten Indiana 30-something straight times. It hasn't been competitive in my lifetime. A couple of those like Tevin Coleman seasons, right? Like a couple of those games got kind of close. Like there was the Michael Penix year where he brought him all the way back, which is like one of the most exciting football games, one of the most impressive like single performances I've ever seen from a quarterback in college. Like watching Penix drag Indiana back in that football game in 2020 was absolutely insane. But like this is by far the best chance Indiana's had in my lifetime to beat Ohio State. How can you sit there and call this game unimportant? Like that's crazy. Like to what this could mean for recruiting, what this could mean for national perception, what this could mean for, like, it's asinine to say this game doesn't matter. Like this is the current king sitting on top of the mountain defending their throne from the most worthy challenger. Like if you want to dumb it down to things like that, like this is game of this David versus Goliath. Like this is why you watch the sport to for games like this. And so like, yeah, I don't care that if Indiana loses this football game, they still might probably be the number 2 team in the country. And I doubt there are Ohio State. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there, right? But there can't be Ohio State fans out there that would be happy if they lose this football game. That's asinine. That's crazy. If you're an Ohio State fan and you'd be happy that that if they lost this football game, tell me. Maybe I'm the crazy one. But so like if Indiana wants to get to the places it wants to get to, and that's national champion contender every year, like I don't know if they want to be top 5 in recruiting, right? Because like they don't have to be, right, to be able to produce they've proven that they can do it in other ways, but that is the traditional way to be a power. So I'm going to just sit here and assume that they want to do things like that, right? If you want to do these things, then you have to beat Ohio State. Like there is no way around it. Like to get to where they need to be, they have to go through this football team. Like this is by far the most important football game in the history of the program. I get it. I get people saying it doesn't matter in terms of like the college football playoff, but like in terms of just football in general, like yeah, this game means a whole lot. What's up, John? Yeah, we're on late night, 11:51 on the East Coast. Yeah, if you're hanging out late night, I appreciate it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, Dabney Offerman saying you're right. It's an insane take to think that Ohio State wouldn't want to have an undefeated season. I want to have an undefeated season. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe I'm the selfish one. And like, I appreciated Kurt Signetti's quote at the end of the Purdue game where they basically asked him, like, what does this all mean to you? And he said, when I'm 80 and I'm sitting down and I'm reflecting on this season, drinking a Coors Light, like maybe I'll have an answer for you. When this season's over and I can reflect on what it means, maybe I'll have a different answer for you. But until that happens, like we're in the thick of this. Like the next game is the most important game. And I want to go 1-0 every week. And so like I'm like this is the most meaningful football game in the history of the program, and I'm going to treat it that way. Like I literally do not care if the seeding doesn't change after it. Like I don't. Like I want to win that football game. Maybe that makes me the crazy one. I don't know. That being said, obviously Indiana and Ohio State are the 2 best teams in the country. They should both be getting buys. Like I don't think that needs to be said. We watched Texas Tech just lose. There's 2 undefeated teams. There's going to be 2 1-loss teams. They're both better than Texas A&M. Obviously, they should both get buys. And then I'm excited for this week. I'm pumped for this week. Like, this has been Indiana and Ohio State fans and obviously their football teams, but the fan bases have kind of just been like, side-eyeing each other in the grocery store, right? Like, it's like both teams want to have like the I'm not thinking about you, like we're just focused, but it's like, let's not mince words, right? Like, Ohio State's been thinking about Indiana the whole season. Indiana's been thinking about Ohio State the whole season. And here we go. Like, these two teams have been on a collision course, and I'm here for it. Like, I'm pumped for it. And I'm like, the fan bases are too. Like, you can sense it. Like, there's a buzz. There's a like, and it's right now it's starting respectful, right? And obviously it's Twitter and all that, and it's going to get chippy, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And the quotes from both coaches have been super respectful, and like, there's a immense amount of respect between both programs, right? But at the end of the day, like, I'm excited for the back and forth. I'm excited for the narratives. I'm excited to see, what their fan base actually thinks of the Hoosiers, what our fan base actually thinks of their football team, like where the twists and turns go, and then ultimately, like, who holds the upper hand going into this football game on Saturday night. Like, we'll break it down more on Tuesday night, but like, Indiana is the largest living alumni base in the country. Ohio State has one of the largest fan bases in the country. You saw it last week. I don't know if anybody's a sucker for this stuff like I am, but there was a Michigan account that tweeted something about a score or whatever. Dude had 3.2K replies. 3.2K replies and counting. That was the craziest number I've ever seen. Like, crushed his like number. Like, it was insane the amount of people replying to that tweet. So, like, that's the type of engagement out there for what this football game can be. Like, yeah, I'm all for that. Like, this could be one of the best weeks that we've had on this app. Like, I don't know. So we'll see what happens, right? But I'm excited for it. I know that their fan base is very active. Our fan base is very active. And we have the 2 best football teams in the country heading on the collision course. Yeah, John's saying 16-0, natty or bust. John's been saying it all year. Davy says this is a massive game, biggest I can remember. Is this as big as the Notre Dame game last year? I would say it's bigger. It proves more. I would 100% argue it's 10 times bigger. 1, because it's the next one, but 2, it's for a championship. And like, people, like, I'm not one of those people who says the Big Ten championship doesn't matter. Like, the Big Ten championship matters. If we're going to call the Big Ten the best league in college football, how can you sit there and say winning their championship doesn't matter? That's crazy. Same for if you were going to make the argument for the SEC or for whatever. Like, if they don't matter, don't play the games. That's why, like, the Miami Notre Dame argument is so crazy. Or like, why play the football game then if they're not going to matter? Like, you're telling me people are paying $200, $300, $400 for tickets right now, and that game doesn't matter? Crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Yeah, I think it's 10 times bigger than that Notre Dame game. Although, like, I don't know, that was a big game too. I think. Yeah, John's saying if they're keeping score, we want to win. That is very, very true. There will be a lot of eyes on this game. 1v2 doesn't happen very often. Yeah, completely agree with that. And I saw a lot of people were upset that College Game Day is not going there. They're going to the SEC championship game. It's like, what did you expect? Like, they have the SEC TV contract. They were never going to the Big Ten championship game. Like, that game could have been 2 unranked teams. And like, we'll see whatever happens with the college football playoff committee and whatever disaster could happen if Duke wins the ACC. But like, I don't know. Yeah, that's like those are the other things I'm looking at in college football this week, because I don't want to completely jump into Ohio State. Like, to be honest, I haven't done my deep dive of their football team yet. Obviously, no, this is the Ohio State point I wanted to make, because I think it's so funny how NFL draft prospects are evaluated. Because not that I'm talking to NFL heads, right, but if you read what most, if anybody, is writing about this upcoming draft class, is like Caleb Downs is one of, if not the best players in the class, like consensus top 5 player, like anyone you're reading, right? So then you go, okay, cool. Like he's going to be a clear top 5 pick, right? And everyone's like, no, he's a safety. All right, cool, guys. Like I guess that's the way we do these things. Like I don't know, maybe I just take that guy in the top 5 and take the best football player. But it's like when you're going through the best football players in the country, like you're naming Ohio State players. So it's like this is gonna be as fun as it gets. It's gonna be as fun as it gets. Yeah, there's the Miami Notre Dame situation's crazy. The other thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is Notre Dame has this relationship with the ACC. If you're the ACC, is this beneficial to you at all? I don't know. Food for thought. But that's what I got for tonight. Wanted to put the bow on Purdue. Wanted to give some shout outs, obviously, to the freshmen, to the Lawrence North connection, to the 2 outside receivers, to the 2 number 1 receivers. Yeah, National Signing Day is Wednesday, so we'll have a signing day preview on Tuesday night as well. But yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out for a quick live on a Sunday night, late night Sunday. Put the bow on Purdue. Looking forward to Ohio State against Indiana in Indianapolis. Yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday night to preview it all. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Go Hoosiers.